Well, obviously, so many questions around the new tariffs and their impact, not only on the American economy, but the global economy as well. As to what this will mean for supply chains, we welcome in Senthil Veeraraghavan, who is professor of operations, information, and decisions here at the Wharton School. Senthil, great to talk to you again. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well. Obviously, this is a very, again, unique time. I know we had this type of a conversation when COVID kind of broke out,
Yeah,
but this is obviously how different is what we're going to potentially see play out with supply chains now in comparison to 4 years ago?
it is. It is going to be very different. I believe mainly because there was some uncertainty during COVID. The uncertainty was related to whether vaccines will be here and what the potential healthcare damage would be. And eventually, everybody believed supply chains would be back to what they were before the pandemic. Now we are in a new territory. It's unclear to me, and as well as a lot of economists looking at this, whether we are seeing a reset of the global economy and trade, and therefore we are in new territory for sure.
So then, when you think about the impact of tariffs and supply chain, what are the areas that really draw your attention the most?
Well, first, tariffs are a kind of a levy and a tax. So the immediate effect is going to be very related to what an increase in tax would do to a lot of consumption. So the first thing you're going to see is consumption go down. And as a related effect, the prices will also go up depending on how much margins companies have to absorb some of the cost shock and transfer some of the cost shock to its consumers. So prices go up, willingness to spend goes down. This is generally bad for supply chains. It's particularly bad for cheap industrials. Particularly if you have a cheap apparel supply chain, that's going to suffer a lot of damage. If you're thinking of auto supply chain or industrial supply chain with a lot of equipment manufacturing, you will have a lot of parts that are cheap parts that have very low margin. Those costs are going to go up, and we're going to see price increases there as well. So it's yeah, that's the first order effect.
And it's not only obviously the parts and the components to whatever companies are building out, but obviously finished product as well. Companies are going to reassess, the types of shipments of finished products they make to and from the United States.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. This is exactly the problem. So when you saw one of the news items that I saw that caught my attention was the plant production plants went down in Mexico because of tariffs, and immediately there was a reaction from the U.S. auto supply market as well because the components that typically an a car manufacturing company, a finished good is a car, but you would imagine at least four different supply chains in the back end integration that parts come in from China, parts come in into Mexico, back into the US, go back to Mexico, go to Canada, come back into the US as a final finished product. So everybody is kind of backing off on their capacity and their plant layoffs. And so that's going to be a problem. Yeah.
How long does it take for those impacts to kind of really work their way into the system and be seen by the consumer?
I think it's almost going to be immediate this time, I believe, because the first thing is you already see that in the resale value of old cars, because there is only limited inventories that are among, and the car prices were going down, resale value for most cars, and they started going up, just like what you saw during the pandemic. And the problem with inventories, unlike problem with financials, is there is always some value in willingness to trade about variance. People like some kind of shocks. People trade, buy low, and things like that. Inventories, they are a depreciating asset. You hold inventories, you're going to lose value over time. The only way to kind of tide over this is to buy a lot of inventory at cheap. But as the prices, if the prices go down on the cost of these materials, it's going to be a problem. If the prices go up, also it's going to be a problem. So you're in a tight spot.
Right. And so for a lot of companies that have been moving material and product into the U.S. to try and get ahead of these tariffs, the hope is that they can still sell it at a regularly normal price, but that potential of prices, seeing that impact is going to be coming here really quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, the first order problem, as I said. The second order problem is there's going to be some time that's required, and that's where your question comes in. To build these things, it's not easy to build a washing machine right away. You need to train people to build things, and yeah, it's possible to get using an industrial policy to get to that position over a year, but those changes need to be gradual and patient. But unfortunately, my own view is that's not what we are seeing.
So a company like Jaguar Land Rover, who announced that they were going to pause shipments to the U.S. for a month because of these tariffs, I guess the expectation is we're going to see more companies make moves like that because of the impact that they might start to feel in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the other company I was thinking of, just as you were talking about Land Rover, was Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out, and they have paused all the pre-orders. Essentially, thinking about this is there is a pricing question going on here. How much can we absorb? Going back to my first comment, all these companies are thinking there is a price margin. We're going to get hit on the price margin. How much are we going to absorb, and how much can we realistically transfer it to consumers? That creates an unfortunate effect here for a company like Jaguar or Nintendo. There's consumers world over. So if you can sell to those consumers because you're limited in capacity, you would first go there and still make margins.
I'll finish up on this. So then companies that are in the shipping industry and the trucking industry and the rail industry, the ones that are normally moving a lot of this product, they have to be very worried at this point.
Yeah, we are seeing a decoupling going on in live action right now because as soon as China announced reciprocal tariffs of 34%, simply shipping costs will go up because you're going to end up paying tariffs everywhere along the way. And now more countries are going to get in and rebalance their tariff rates and things like that. So yeah, it's going to be a tough problem.
Let me ask you one more thing, because I think it's the question on a lot of people's minds is, are we in a tariff war right now?
We are. We are. There is no way. No, I think that's a escalation of terms. So I'd like to not think about it that way. But yeah, we are in an economic contradiction where people are disagreeing, and one of the tools that countries are bringing in to deal with each other is increasing and negotiating through tariffs. And how much of it is negotiation and how much of is it pushing their costs, that depends on whether we want to call it war or negotiations, really. So
Senthil, great to have you with us. Thanks very much. All the best.
thank you.
Thank you. Senthil Veeraraghavan, who is professor of operations, information, and decisions here at the Wharton School.